Okay, so I got cut off a second ago, so we'll wrap up these last couple slides and I'll talk to you a little bit about your test, and then you can get your reviews passed back and you can finish up your chapter 30, 31 homework packets, and you guys can even review those together if you want, and then you should start studying for your test. So we do know that part of the legacy of the counterculture movement is going to be this less traditional attitudes about a lot of things. So we're really going to loosen up some social norms. You don't have to dress the same way that everybody dresses. Your appearance doesn't have to be as kept up and perfect and neat as it had always been before. Obviously, there's going to be definitely some counterculture lifestyles that are going to happen, whether it's from living in a commune or homosexual relationships or living together before marriage. All these are going to be lifestyles that are sort of going to come out of this counterculture movement. And other social behaviors, sort of the protesting the government movement, the idea that drug use could be more common and acceptable, and the idea that sex could be talked about publicly, or that people might start having multiple sexual partners, things like that, all come out of this counterculture movement. So it's just very much a change from the traditional norms that had been established in our society, are going to come out of this movement. Even if you're not a hippie, you probably are still going to have a changed attitude towards a lot of these things, at least different from what a lot of their parents had, even if they're not fully buying into the full-fledged hippie beliefs. And the last part of this is the conservative backlash. Politically, there's going to be a huge backlash against the counterculture movement. Like we kind of mentioned before, Nixon was elected originally on the idea of he was going to restore law and order to the country. Basically, that idea continues. He's not going to put up with these just kind of frivolous youths who are shirking their responsibilities. They're not being responsible citizens, they're not taking care of their families, they're not living healthy lifestyles. All of these things are going to be essentially what puts Nixon back in office and makes him so popular, and again sort of ushers in this Reagan era as well. And it's this core of families that are going to vote very, very pro-family, very, very conservative values, and they're going to put Nixon, Reagan, and George H.W. Bush into office. So there really is there's not a lot of social backlash that comes from the movement, but there's going to be this large political backlash. Part of the reason is because there's not a lot of social ways to combat this counterculture movement, except just still continuing to live these traditional values. But politically, there's a lot of room for backlash. The counterculture movement, the people involved in the counterculture movement, are not probably going to be politically active. They don't have a lot of social responsibility. They may get out and protest the Vietnam War or protest this movement or that movement, but they're not going to necessarily go vote. These are going to be the first generation of people that say, well, I don't trust the government, so why should I participate? And when this segment of society who believes something very, very different than the traditional segment of society doesn't vote, that traditional segment of society is going to gain a lot of power in politics and by exercising their political rights. And so politically is where the backlash to the counterculture movement came in. And like I said, that's going to be part of what causes Nixon to be so popular for his re-election, and what's going to really usher in the Reagan and Bush Sr. movements that keep them in office and make them so popular. Okay, so that wraps up our notes for chapters 30 and 31. If you haven't already, you'll be getting your chapter 30 and 31 reviews passed back to you. And then with whatever time you have left here, you need to be finishing up your chapter 30 and 31 packets. You didn't have a Friday quiz this week, so I'm just really stressing that you need to finish those packets and sort of study them a little bit, because usually we talk about them and review them a little bit more with our Friday quizzes, and we're not doing that this week due to the lack of internet yesterday and then having a sub today. It just probably wasn't going to happen. So I'm just kind of putting that on you, and it's your responsibility to make sure you look through those questions and that you can answer them. If you do have time left, you may get together. If you would like to go over them as a class, you're welcome to do that. Somebody can lead and sort of ask the questions and look through them and make sure that everybody's got the right answers. Any time that's left after you finish doing that, if you choose not to do them as a class, I would ask that you do them on your own, and you need to be working quietly, and I did leave a note for the sub to strongly enforce that. So after you do that, if you have any time left, you need to be quietly studying to yourself. You should have your reviews passed back, and you now have your review packets finished if you finish those as a class. Your test will be on Monday, your chapters 30 and 31 test. It will be multiple choice. It will be in the computer lab. It will be about the same length as a normal test, and it will be over chapters 30 and 31. So basically the Vietnam War, the feminist movement, and the counterculture movement. So not a ton of material to cover there, but 3 really important social topics of this time period. So once you study for those, be ready for the test on Monday. We'll be picking up with chapters 30 and 33. I think we're 32 we'll be doing separately. But then we'll do chapters 32. We'll get into sort of Nixon and Watergate, and we'll be wrapping up pretty quickly. Seniors, on Monday, do not let me forget, and I will be giving you your review packet for your final exam. The test you take on Monday will be your last test before your final exam. So on Monday, do not let me forget to give you your review packets. You'll get started while we're working the rest of the week. You'll actually get started on your review packets and be ready for your finals on Thursday and Friday. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I have missed seeing you today, but I'll see you on Monday, and I hope you'll be ready for your test. Of course, I will answer any questions that you have before the test. So be studying this weekend, and have a great weekend, and I'll see you then. Bye.